Hi everyone, Kumar Dattatreyan here with the Meridian Point. Today's guest is an Agile coach and transformation practitioner who spent years working inside some of Canada's largest organizations, including Canada Life, helping leadership teams navigate complexity without losing their people in the process. Nawaz Butt is based in Toronto and brings a perspective on organizational change that is anything but textbook. He doesn't see people as agile or non-agile. He doesn't chase frameworks for their own sake. What he does chase is authentic presence, honest conversations, and the kind of change that actually sticks. He's here today to talk about what it really takes to catalyze change from the inside and why descaling organizations may matter more than scaling them, and what happens when you bring your whole self to work in a culture that rewards multitasking. So this should be a fantastic conversation because it's right up my alley. Hi, Nawaz. Nice to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So, as per the intro, you've been a coach for a long time in some large companies. Most people, myself included, are brought in to scale the approach, right? To scale it from one team to multiple teams to hundreds of teams, perhaps. But you've said publicly that the goal should be to descale organizations, and that's something that I also believe in through my work with Xscale and the idea of descaling organizations that really appeals to me. What do you mean by that, and where did that thinking originate?
Thanks. I'm glad you asked. uh, I mean, I go back to this old cliche Conway's law,
Yeah.
right? So organization design systems, and those systems that they design are just a reflection, right? A mirror reflection of their communication structures, right? Um organization tend to get bigger, right? And then once they get bigger, they tend to add layers, and layers could be hierarchies, it could be chain of command, it could be approvals, right? It could be hands-offs. So I'm not surprised that when I go in, especially in the tech space, and I see the teams running into number of dependencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because right, it's a large organization, so the capabilities have spread across the enterprise. So as the organization are actually scaling those capabilities in those structures, what they are doing is they are adding more load on the system, where they are adding committees. Like I see, right? Like there would be steering committees, there would be some like gates, like I've seen, right? Like people introduce gates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole coordination effort becomes a huge undertaking,
Yeah.
right? So my take on this one is to, yeah, you can celebrate your growth, right? Some people chase numbers, right? Like number of people reporting, or size of the portfolios, or right, or maybe uh, the reporting lines that they have. Uh, but for me, the organizational maturity is all about how can we make the decision making simple. Like I was in an organization where they used to do engagement surveys, and then
Mm-hmm.
uh, mm, there is a top five, right? And then it was like a groundhog day, like year on year, in the top five, one of the things that keep on coming up was decision making is slow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is where I tend to talk about the descaling concept. Like when we talk about descaling, it means we need to automize, right? Which means we have to create localized decision making bodies in the
Mm-hmm.
organization, right? Where people and the teams be able to do things or make decisions, um, and that may help them to overcome some of those dependencies
Mm-hmm.
that they are running into. So this is what I think. For me, like the aim has to be not to have more teams, but to have less number of teams in the organization.
Hmm. Um, yeah, is it less teams or less people on teams or both?
I mean, eh, like definition of the team could be very right subjective, right? Like depending on how
Yeah.
people define teams, right? Like people say two pizza teams, right? Like or right or Scrum has their own cross-functional teams, right? Like I do not get too much hooked up into the definition of teams, right? Like as long as people have a common goal and objective and driving towards that common goal, right? Like so, I go back to Formula One, right? Like I ask sometimes people like how many people are on Formula One team, and then people give different answers, right? Because they're looking at how many people are there on the racetrack at a given time. But when we look at these, right, Ferrari or right, like all these, right, Red Bull, right, we've seen these case studies like they are like 1200, 1500, even more people, right, on a Formula
Mm,
One team, right? So how can those people be able to work together, right, towards a common goal? Because
mm,
the common goal is to actually win races, right?
yeah.
uh, so so that is, I think, what I think, like if the leadership has done a good enough job to define exactly what the goals are, what we're trying to get to, um, it becomes easier to
Yeah.
rally people around,
Yeah.
um, um, understand. Like I remember having a conversation with one of the leader, and this leader was asking me, because this was in an organization where they have a lot of layers, right? Like
Hmm.
so this leader is more of kind of a business. Think of him as a business sponsor, right? Like so he's trying to just paraphrase what he said, but what effectively was he asking was like, do these people even understand what we are trying to achieve, right? Like, so he was referring to some of these component teams, like like
Yeah.
it could be middleware API
Yeah.
teams, right, and it could be backend team. So the messaging get lost, right, in the
Yeah.
complexity of the architecture, and
Yeah.
everything becomes a 0-1 decision, right? uh,
Yeah. I'm totally tracking with you. I'm just curious, when you do have a large company going in and saying you need fewer teams may not be may not, I don't know if that works for you as a message, right? Maybe it's more about the alignment that allows for autonomy, the decisions to be made autonomously by the teams that may lead to fewer number of teams that are needed to do this same amount of work. And I think I'm getting where you're going is that we have all these people that are focused on conveying information that would not be maybe wouldn't be needed, or they could do something more value added if they were aligned to that common mission and they understood what their role was in achieving that common mission, that purpose. Is that where you're going with
right,
not you don't
right,
need that
right,
many teams? Okay.
right,
Yeah. And also I also wonder about the definition of team. Like people throw the word team out, and for me that has a very specific meaning. It's that the people on that team, whatever the number, and yeah, there have been a lot of studies that show that the smaller the number, the more effective and efficient they are. That if you have a 30-person team, that's not really a team. That may be multiple small squads within that team they could still function effectively. But for me, a team is small. They understand what each of the members of the team their skills and abilities are, and they pull towards the same goal. They back each other up. They help each other without being asked. And I don't see that much of that. It's like I see more groups of people that happen to be working on a project, but they are really working as individuals inside of that group.
right.
And that may be a symptom of the hierarchy and the bureaucracy that's created with scaling. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think the concept of team is like in some ways misunderstood. Like I think the people who are reporting to the same person are classified mostly as a team, right? Like so I have the same manager.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean that could be one definition. There is a book actually out there, Collaborative Intelligence. I'm
Mm,
trying to remember the name of the author. I think Hackman or some. I think this guy works in CIA with CIA teams, if I remember correctly, and
mhm,
he put together 6 conditions for a team, and I don't remember all the conditions, but first condition was, of course, the team need to have a purpose. You need to have the right people for the right job, right? And all of the things. Actually, he put number 5 as some coaching. So the
Mm,
coaching can help, right? But I think the coaching is not the prerequisite to make an awesome team. I think, which was a
mm-hmm,
very different take, right? So I think making a team, even if I use the tick box approach, have the right purpose, have the right people, have the right skill set. Right people means the right attitude, and the skill set means you
yeah.
need to have all the competencies to be able to deliver the product. Um, is difficult to find. I remember in one place where we I literally actually brought this condition up with in one conversation with the leader. Uh, so what happened was that team actually lost their um, purpose. It was
Mm,
not a bad team,
mm-hmm,
right? This was an awesome team, but it lost its purpose because the organization actually had a little bit of a shift, right?
mm-hmm,
The thing that the team was focused at was no more a priority for the organization.
mm,
So my conversation with the leader was, I actually literally played back these 6 conditions to the leader, and I said, this team tick all the boxes. The only thing it doesn't have is the vision, the purpose. Give
mm,
this team a purpose, and then they will go and do awesome things. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
it is also right. Another way of looking at it, you don't like, we usually tend to get hooked up on the top down, right? Need to have an objective to make an awesome team. The teams could be there, right? Like, and then you just need to bring that work to them and take benefit of, right, the camaraderie that is there, right? Like, and we see a lot of this in the, because I'm just little bit like, right, it's a soccer season, so right, like, so we see a lot of in the sports, right, space, uh, how teams can things turn around, right? Like, so that would be one thing of look to look at, like,
Yeah,
when we talk
I
about.
do like the way you put it. You know, you can give a team that may be a good team, maybe they have potential, but you bring the right work to them or bring the right purpose to them, and they can really blossom.
Right.
And the key there is bring the work to the team, because too often in large companies, the people are brought to the work rather than the work being brought to the team. And so going back to descaling, you mentioned at the top of this show that fewer teams are often enough or better, as long as they have the power to make decisions autonomously for many of the things that they would be responsible for. What does that look like in practice?
uh, I mean, there is actually a nice, I think this was Management 3.0. They introduced
Mhm.
some of these. I call them like a some set of tools, practices, right? So one of the thing that I have seen is the delegation poker.
Yeah,
I think where actually they have showcased like the extremes of one point being selling, and then to the, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember like what is the last extreme, but it is like delegation, right?
yeah,
So that is a haggling act between the team and the leadership,
yeah,
right? You may not start at one of those extremes, right? Or maybe you start from right somewhere in the middle, but wherever you start, the aim is to always work toward the far right, right? Like, so delegation is where we're trying to get to, but there are some stops, right, pit stops that the team is going to make as part of the journey, and maybe not everything can be autonomous, right? Some of the management decisions like hiring, in some cases, right, I do see people bring their teams into even interviews, right? They want the team to give them a vote of confidence, right? Like, so there could be like budgeting could be one thing, right? So there could be certain management decisions that probably may have a little bit of a collaboration effort, but at the end of the day the decision still sits with other leader, right?
yeah.
uh, but moving the organization or the team towards the right is where I think we want to go. So that is one thing that I have done in some places, like where
Hmm.
we have very transparent discussions with the leader. I remember actually one of the place where I actually haven't had this conversation yet, but when was very very early days standing up a team, this leader sent an email. That email has like 25 plus points, and then was like, I want all of these things from the team, right? Like, so, right? So I mean, so this then that start the conversation, right? Like, why do you think the team need to have all of those things, and what are those things mean for the team?
Mm-hmm.
And right, like, so let's start the conversation, right? Like, so the idea was to actually bring them to a space where we can have a conversation around, like, from telling stance to facilitating stance to
Mm.
collaboration stance, right, to right more owning stance and all of those things, right? So it is a little bit of a shift in the way they think and they approach things. But you can start from anywhere, honestly. But the aim is to make the team the nucleus of what the delivery would look like. And I think what you earlier said rightly, that work is not coming to the team, rather people are traveling to the work, right, or been asked to go to the work, right? So I think that goes back to the project and I'm not going to get into that, right, project and product mindsets, but I'm like, at the deeper level, it is exactly what it is, right? Like, so as we stand up uh, more long-lived teams in the organizations, and then these teams have commitment, right, and then they have fixed, in more cases fixed capacity,
Yeah.
then some of the decisioning of what their commitments are and exactly how they can live up to those commitments, they need to own some of those decisions also as a team.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I'm with you. I'm just curious also your take on, sort of the crux of it, the descaling aspect of it. How does I get that the team, if they have ownership and they know what they have ownership of, they can function more autonomously, maybe not all the way shifted to the right on the delegation poker game, but somewhere in the middle. Maybe they start out and then over time the calculus shifts a bit, right? So where the leader is trust the team more and is able to empower the team or give them the autonomy to be able to make the types of decisions that would make them faster because of that trust now exists. I'm still wondering what your take is on the fewer number of teams. Like, how does that? Of course, the team's going to be more productive, but how does that translate to fewer teams and more, and reducing the time to decision, if you will, for the organization as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it actually is difficult to what to call it, like, peeling the onion, right, in the organization, right? So
Yeah.
when we look at the organization, and I know it's, I think I have seen it everywhere. Maybe I haven't met an exception yet, where when we talk about, okay, we are going to, like, the delivery models, when people look into, right, uh, uh, I usually see like the traditional models, and I see like some bits of, right, agile, right, like, versions, right, and then we see a hybrid,
Yeah.
right? So I think that is also one of the challenges, right, in the organization, where the organization is also not very decisive at this time exactly which way they want to go. Like, if I give you an example, I think it was some time back in Harvard Business Review. They actually have written an article there, and there was a number that was glorified in that article,
Mm-hmm.
which was the number of agile teams that the CEO is chasing. So they are chasing a percentage of number of agile teams they want to have in their organization,
Yeah.
which actually merits a question in my head, at least, that if you are glorifying that, then why you want to have other teams, if this is the right way you want, if this is the way you want to set up your organization, right? So, like, I think going back to, uh, the organizations are still not decisive in which way they want to go, because of the, like, the old legacy, right, management footprint in a lot of the management practices that we have, right. It could be in different extremes, but I've seen some, like shades of those, right? Like, so as the organizations have those, um, we still are forcing a lot of traditional approaches, and like peg in a square, right, kind of a thing, right,
Yeah.
where the teams are kind of have some kind of a local agile footprint, but they've been actually aligned to some traditional ways of delivery, right? Because
Yeah.
we still want to do our big bang Gantt charts and schedule, and then right, and then the teams are going to deliver that. So organizations are not actually looking at the design of exactly what the delivery could look like, or what the organization value stream would look like when we talk about end-to-end customer experience. We are still
Hmm.
in business and tech discussions, unfortunately,
Yeah.
right? So as the alignment is not there around the customer, uh, we tend to have a lot of localization, right, in the organizations, where we see a lot of verticals standing up both in business and in tech, which means we have a multiplier effect, right? Like, so we are scaling those localized capabilities more and more, which goes back to that, right? We are going to have more and more teams. I want to have
Yeah.
25 API team, because this API team need to serve the entire bank, right? So there you go. So I
I
think
see
what
your
I'm saying
point
is,
now.
yeah, the
Yeah.
organization design is a very difficult, right? The model
Yeah.
of exactly what would it need to be
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
organization to be able to have less number of teams. Uh, and I give you another example, because what happens is we tend to have lot of virtual teams existing in the organization, because I think what you said, like, as the projects tend to happen more and more, and the underlying agile teams are doing most of the production support and BAU work, we tend to have these concepts of virtual teams standing up at program, and even at right, and project levels, right, where people are borrowed from different teams, and then they're coming and putting some x amount of capacity to deliver
Mm.
the work. So something suffers in the system, but we do not know exactly who at what cost, right? That
Mm.
right, because everybody is running in their own lanes, and we are just trying to maximize, right, those capabilities that are existing in the organization, by looking and by setting up these virtual teams, right, like across all these different mandates, which at times actually running into each other. And
Yeah.
that I have seen firsthand, where teams are struggling to actually integrate their work, because they are initiatives are clashing into each other. I
Mm.
cannot merge my branch, I cannot push this into fate, right, and all of those things are happening. So I think it goes back to, like, right, the organization complexity uh, just cascades everywhere in the
Yeah.
organizations, and as well as in the delivery.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I get that. And I see it all the time in the companies that I'm supporting as well, that because you have so much work in progress, so many things that are clashing and conflicting, that it's obviously going to affect the teams, especially if the organization has not been structured in a way that makes value delivery a little bit more easy. I guess easy maybe not be the right word, but I think you know what I'm getting at. All right, let's maybe shift the topics here a little bit. You said that, in our prep conversation, you've said that you don't see people as agile or not agile. How does that mindset actually show up for you as a coach? Like, what is your approach, if you will, with the teams that you work with?
Yeah, I think Kanban call it, like, and I'm just borrowing, like, meet the team where they are.
Yeah.
So that is my position on people, and I I I don't even think that people resist it.
Mm,
If we could borrow the term agile for this conversation, I don't think they don't resist agile. I think they probably resist the uncertainty, right? Or
mm,
maybe identity, or maybe the status, right? Uh, and some of the gaps that are there in the organization. So uh, I, I just feel like, I like, for me it is people first approach. I think that is what the manifesto also says, right? Um, right,
people over
people
process.
over, right, yeah, interactions over, right. So
Yeah.
I am a people first person, so I try to just come as transparent and as open as I can be, and try to have very open and honest conversations with the people, without even using any agile or any of these, right, lingos. Like, it is a people connection, people conversation, and then trying to understand what and where they think that I could help, uh, or maybe right address some of the gaps that they think that they want me to look at.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a good approach. I mean, even if you're not against the word agile, or maybe you haven't had any experience with it. Agile has been around now for what,
mm,
26 years or 25
yeah,
years, whatever it's been, and people have an opinion of it, good or bad. It's out there. It's they've either worked in it, implemented it, been part of a team that's using it in one way, shape, or another. And so the approach that you use is really, I think, the only approach to use as a coach is not to talk a bunch of jargon, but just to really understand what the people are struggling with. Where are their constraints, and how can you help them overcome them? So I agree with that. That's kind of my approach as well.
yeah. I mean, like when we talk about people, like I mean, I was proven wrong at times, but I think they did this study right in Google also, like that project Aristotle, right? Like, and they
Yeah,
were trying to find the secret sauce, like what makes like the high performing teams, and then what they found out, the discover was like, yeah, it is not the smartest people or the most right knowledgeable people. It is the psychological safety, right?
right.
Right in on the team, that is the biggest contributor. There were others also, like they had five, right? But this is the biggest that they felt is actually is making the teams stand out from the rest of the team. So I
Yeah.
go back to that, right? Like how much safety is there when I am
Mm.
actually having these conversations with the people, right? Are they feeling safe to have a conversations? Are they open? And I really actually like when people, if somebody says like I hate this thing, I really like actually their openness and transparency. I am looking uh, for for let the skeleton out kind of, right, from the
Yeah.
closet kind of thing, right? Like so but that comes with a little bit of a safety net. If people trust
Yeah.
and have confidence in you, which takes a little bit of an effort, but then once you build that, then you can have very honest and true conversations with the people outside agile and non-agile realm, right? Like so now
Yeah.
this is a people connection, real conversations. This is where we actually challenge the most, right? Our thoughts, our beliefs, our blind spots, right? And that is where we can like become like a partner and ally, without wearing any titles, right? Like and that is the human side, right? The people side that try
Hmm.
um, to work with. Um, I have successes. I'm not going to claim that this works everywhere, right? Actually, one of my fellow coach, I know we are on record, but uh, is because there was a conversation within a conversation, and he's like, they give me a title of a gentle coach. So I was given a coach, yeah, because they were like, yeah, we are a little heavy-handed, and you are. But one of the things that they said to me was like, Nawaz, if somebody goes in the morning and say to the other person that you are an a hole, right? Like, and in the afternoon the second person, and in the evening the third person, you know who the a hole is, right? Like, right? So I that is how I see people also, right? Like I'm like it is your reflection, you see, right? So
Yeah.
if you bring your true self, right, to the conversation, most times I see people respond, right? And uh, you would have a more empathetic, right, and a real conversation,
Yeah.
um, uh, and that is how I try to be in my practice also.
I think that's a great approach. I mean, I know in our last conversation you mentioned about this. You have the standard for yourself of being fully present while at work, right? Being um, having the camera on. You're not multitasking. And this is, in a culture where many people are multitasking and don't have their cameras on. And I like the whole gentle coach moniker. I think that's great. I love it. If I remember, you've gotten feedback that you're too transparent for some
Yeah.
organizations. How do you hold that standard without becoming a disruption, I guess, in your own ability to operate in that organization?
Uh, yeah, I think I probably talked about that. I walk away from a team when, yeah. So one of the time, one of the leadership brought me in, and then they asked me to go and look at some of the teams, and they were like, "Why not we start up with one team, Nawaz, and then you go and look at this team. This team is without a manager for over a year." And why not you go and we put our best foot forward. So the coach is going to come and spin up this team and make this team an awesome team.
Hmm.
So I went, I looked at this team. I'm not going to get into the details. I saw what the team is doing. I went back to the leadership, I think a week or 2 week later, and I know it was a risky move because as a consultant, I was supposed to create or increase complexity, right, rather than recommending less. But I'm like, no, this team doesn't need me, right? Like, so, and of course I explain it to them why I said it, right? Because the team was very self-organized. It was a nimble small team, but
Yeah.
they were right in for all, for one, one for all kind of, right? Like
Hmm.
they were looking after each other. They had a very nice, it was a in-person team, so that helps.
Hmm.
But yeah, they were, uh, nobody need to tell them. They come, and then they, at the time of the stand up, they, even if the two people are there, they're actually doing their stand up, and the both of them are talking to each other. So right, like, so it was so many things that I get to see, that yeah, this team doesn't need, so the thing that was happening for that team was like they were without a leader, right? And that is what
Yeah.
I usually try to educate and coach leadership on, that please get out of the way of the teams, right? This team survive without a manager, and I'm not saying all teams would become like that, uh, but for me, that was the moment where I'm like, I go back to this. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, right?
Hmm.
So when people come and like entrepreneurs come and they put a business pitch, right? And then most times these sharks ask this question like, "Are you doing this full time?"
Mm.
And some of them may answer, "No, I don't have a full time, and I may have another thing going on." Sometimes some people even have
Hmm.
two businesses, right? And usually the shark response is that, "Mm, but if you are spending that time somewhere else, right, you are not spending that time growing this business, right?"
Yeah.
So that is what where I actually see the coaching also. So my answer to them was
Mm.
not in the context of that I'm not, do not want to help the team anymore, right? But the that because I have limited coaching hours, right? So my
Mm.
job as a coach is not to preserve my role. It is to create conditions, right, where people can become more self-organized, right,
Yeah.
self-sufficient, right? So going back to the Shark Tank, right, metaphor, like I don't need to invest my energy on this thing. I would rather go and help other teams, right? That
Yeah.
probably would benefit from me focusing, right, and helping them to become a
Right.
better version of their, right. So yeah, I mean that was a little bit of the background of, um,
I love it. Yeah, it's refreshing to hear coaches talk that way, right? So you're essentially working yourself out of a job by creating the conditions whereby the teams can be more, self-sufficient, really. And if you can do that, then you've done your job, right? You can go apply your talent and your attention to other teams that may need that kind of work. Where do you see the coaching profession going in the future?
oh, this is a difficult one. Like, I mean, I cannot see the future. I myself is an accidental coach, right? Like, so I happen to just land on this or get this title because this is something that is close to my true DNA, right? As a person. So this is what the industry has given me, right? This title. I was
Yeah.
never chasing this title. Uh, I had so many other titles, right, in my career. So I think as everything does, is this thing is going to evolve, and I think we have seen evolution and probably fast tracking in the recent time, especially with the age and the rise of AI recently. So I think this thing, like, nothing would be out or off limits, right? Like, I think everything is going to evolve. I I don't know where it's going to be, but I think in some form and shape, coaching as a discipline is going to stay. I
Mhm.
was talking to a Scrum Master very recently, and then this Scrum Master keep on referring me as an Agile coach and them not as a coach. And then
Mhm.
I have to actually spend some time. Then I'm like, yeah, this don't get fixated on the title. Like you also are a coach, right? And then this is what you do. So I think everyone, especially in the leadership domain, does some form of coaching and mentoring, right?
Yeah.
So I I think this is where I actually would be happier if the organizations ad- go down those paths and make it part of one, like some of the management or leadership traits that they want to see in their leaders. Because right now the monster of the, what do you call it, like the of the past are right, are coming back at us, right? Because what I'm saying is that the version of the leadership that we see in some of the places where we see a lot of struggle is just the demons of the past, right? Because they had the same leaders. So the
Yeah.
leaders create more leaders, right? And then that is, it's a vicious cycle, right? So
Right.
what my hope would be that as more modern management, and then me and people like myself, right, in the community, try to bring up these conversations, right, with all the leaderships, right, and in our interactions, and then maybe even we make a very small dent to exactly where the organization want to align their HR recruitment processes, where they want to bring more people. I believe the generation is going to anyways be different, like, so that is another hope,
Mhm.
that the next generations are far better, I think, and probably more modern thinker than the traditional, right, thinkers. I
Yeah.
myself is also generation X, right? So I believe that the profession is going to benefit, and then we will see um, this becoming or baking into the organization in some form and shape. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what the organization is going to call it.
That's what I'm trying to do as well. Nawaz is try to inculcate the. There are a lot of leaders that are natural coaches in most companies. You find them, you see them, you recognize them. They recognize you for the talent you have. But coaching and mentoring and teaching and facilitating those disciplines, those modalities aren't necessarily things that people get promoted for. And that are leaders, that are managers of people that have direct reports. They're people who are promoted for what they can do or what they did. The tangible evidence of
Right.
successes that they had, not so much the people that they developed. In some cases that's true, but in many cases that's not. And so I think I think it's very aligned with you as to help leaders, managers really become leaders by embodying these different modalities to help them become those coaches, right? That they're where they're helping their people, setting the conditions for their teams to be engaged and happy and productive. Because I don't know what the statistic is nowadays, but the engagement rates in most companies are pretty low. They're in the 40%, 35, 40% range, which means that 60, 65% of people are not engaged in their work, which would
Right. Right.
support your theory and your argument that you don't need that many teams. If you can get teams that are engaged and productive, then they can do amazing things, right? You won't need as many teams to do the kind of work that you currently need all the teams to do. There you go, descaling.
Right. Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like this whole agile coaching. I don't know who was the first official, like when people. I believe Taichi Ono probably was the first coach.
Mm,
If my memory supports me here, because I think this is the guy who introduced the Toyota team leader, right?
yeah,
Right, like, so he was the first coach, and that is how he came up with a little bit of a discipline around how he's going to create more leaders in Toyota, right? Like, so the TTL, right? Like, so I I believe he was the first coach, but he never called himself a coach. But he
right,
did create something to scale that thing, right? Like in the
yeah,
organization, because he thought that he could not be everywhere, right? Like, so he started small, and then he put up a discipline, and then that is how the organization grew from there. So yeah, I think I go back to like title, not a big fan. Like I think the functions are more important. Like I keep talking to it in the community also, like the Scrum Master and all these title. Like people have, because the title have like the function have become job titles, which is
Hmm.
strange, right? Like uh, because Scrum Master was supposed to have even project management functions and people management functions baked into it, but now it has become a Scrum theater, right? Like so, it is
Yeah.
unfortunate, right? Because no organizations have adopted it in that way. I want the disciplines, the capabilities, right, and uh, that those aspects agnostic to the titles. And
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think I would be happier actually if the title goes away, because personally never liked it, right? Because it put me on a pedestal in sometimes, right? People actually
Yeah.
take two steps back, and then they were like, okay, the coach is in the room, and let's give him this coach some space. And I never liked that, because I do not like to be on the pedestal. I like to be rooted on the ground, right?
Yeah.
My feet on the ground, and then have real conversations with the people. So yeah, I I'm okay, because that is where the industries have like have landed with this function. So no complaint. But I believe that the coaching is here going to stay. uh, what form and shape, I don't know. I hope human would stay in the loop. That would be my hope with all this emergence of AI. uh, uh, because
I'll
I
tell you
do
a little
see.
story about that. One of my clients, my business coaching clients, I packaged up an AI for him.
Mm,
My knowledge, if you will, and I fed it into an agent, and I gave it to him for the in between time. So I meet with him every couple of weeks, and in the middle, in the in between times when he has a question, he can use the agent because it's got all of the all not all, but it's got
yeah.
enough to simulate a conversation that he might have with me.
Mm.
And he named this agent E Kumar.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I know there was someone who has come up in Canada, an agile coach agent. They call him Max. Yeah, they were training that agent on some of the things what you just said, like the conversation that one can have on some of the things that touches agile coaching. So
Yeah,
yeah, I I do see that happening. But again, I would hope that the human factor and the human element would not go away or disappear,
yeah,
because I'm seeing a lot of that happening, where people are recording their meetings, and they are taking the transcripts of the meetings, and then there are action items coming out of the meeting. People are
sure.
checking participations on the meeting. So I mean, like, there is a lot of data being thrown around. But I go back to and actually, one of the questions that I asked, I did not get good answers around. Okay, so this AI bot, all right, does all these things, but can you tell me what did it not do?
Mm,
And then people are actually like, I got some answer, but probably not the answer I was looking for. Like, yeah, it has a, it could not get the abbreviation right, right, or maybe the name was incorrectly right spell, right. So those kind of things, because of the cultural right things, like it's
sure.
right. So it is struggled in those ways. But I, that is not the answer I'm looking for. Like I like, so I believe that people do see and then look at, like, the things that as human we tend to see, because this thing has no feelings. It doesn't have any feeling, right? It doesn't have emotional intelligence, right? Like, so I am just trying to make people just not take the human element away in the practice, right? What that is what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it will not feel the tension in the room, right? It
yeah,
will not see the visual cues, right? Like rolling of the eyes, right?
yeah,
or somebody staring on the ceiling, right?
At
Like
least not yet. At least not yet. It may
yeah,
happen at some
yeah,
point.
yeah. That is what I'm trying. I mean, even if it does that, I don't know how much I would trust that also, right? Like I mean, it may do some of that, uh, but that is what my point is. We still need a human to discuss our or exchange our feelings, right? And if we have opinions or disagreements,
Yeah.
right? Or we have like concerns, or we are upset on something. So all of those things are human connection, right? Like so that is why what that is the part I feel like it is it would be difficult for AI uh,
I don't
to
know.
replicate. Yeah,
Yeah, you should. Maybe I'll share this agent with you, and you can converse with
yeah,
it.
I can test it. Yeah,
Yeah, you can test
that
it
would be great.
because it's quite sophisticated, and the answers that it gives are quite sophisticated, and it intuits what you're
Mhm.
thinking in some cases. So I think the models are getting better. They're getting better at simulating
Right, right.
the feelings that people have and so on. And I think some people would argue that we're close to a general artificial intelligence. Some of these models are being curtailed, like the latest from Anthropic, the Mythos, because it's so powerful. And so I don't know. The industry is changing
Yeah,
rapidly, and what was state of the art a year ago is completely antiquated now. And what's now an advanced model would be antiquated a year
right.
from now. So things are just changing so fast. So it's hard to predict where coaching is going to go.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know
And
that one of the companies that I do some work with, coaching.com, I think it's called coaching, I forget, Better Up. It's called Better Up.
mhm,
They have agents that they are now deploying to some of their clients that where they can get help from they can choose to get help from this bot, or they can choose to get help from a human. And in some cases, the clients are more open with the bots than they are with the humans, because I guess
yeah,
it
human.
reflects the quality of coaching, right? So not every coach is going to be uh, put the time in to develop a relationship and appear to be unbiased and all that. I mean, humans have biases, and a machine doesn't. There's no bias in a machine, to for the most part. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah, yeah.
see
I
where things
mean,
go.
right, right, right. And I think that is where we need to keep our minds open also, right? Like, I mean, that's what was one of the value also, right? Adopting change, was it like responding to change, right?
Yeah,
Right. So yeah, I think we need to be open in the practice, in the industry, and look for avenues to get better
yeah,
at what we do, or what we like doing more. So yeah, I think I'm with you on this one. Like, I think I'm not an AI hater, right? Like, because
yeah,
I think we need to actually, even in my workplace, I've given a talk on AI and human intelligence. So yeah, I think I this is an area of interest for me also, because it it I it already helps me in some ways. I do not have pair coaching model in my practice. I used
hmm
to work in a pair coaching model in the past, so
hmm
I use AI as my pair coach. And sometimes
hmm
I am already pairing, right? At sometimes I do interact. Uh, so do I want it to make all my coaching decisions? Of course not. But I consult, right? And I
yeah,
try to get maybe more perspective, and sometime even deeper level, right? So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think this is
Makes
some,
sense.
yeah.
We're going now about 15 minutes so far, so we're going to end here soon. Anything I didn't ask that you'd like to share with this audience?
No, I I I would say just do what you like to do. I think that is what I think my message will be like. What makes you happier? is the most important thing. I think, what do you call it? Like,
Ikigai.
you live only once. Is it the
Yeah,
YOLO?
yeah.
Is it
You
right?
only
Yeah.
live once.
You
You only
only
live
live once.
once.
You only live
YOLO.
once. Yeah, YOLO, right? Like, so,
Yeah,
yeah. So do what you like to do, uh, or at least do more of, if you cannot do all only that, right? Try to do
yeah.
more of that, right? So, and that is something that, um, I happen to just probably again accidentally actually land
Mm,
in a space where I think I found my true ikigai, right? Like, where I
yeah,
think I really like doing, what we you and me are doing is actually nothing to do, right? Like, there are no strings attached, right?
yeah,
Nobody's getting paid, right? Like, but this is what we do, right? Like, so I like to. This is, I think, I would left my legacy and my impact on this planet, right? Like, so help people, talk to people, reach out to people. That is my, like, ultimate, right? Like, happiness spot. So, and it could be different for other people, but that would be my message.
yeah. I
Do
love
what
it.
you like to do. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good message to leave this show with. So for whoever's watching, figure out what you love to do and find your ikigai, your sacred space, right? And that way you can leave your mark on this world in some way, leave it a better place than the way you found it.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, Nawaz. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and you should come back. Well, this has been really enjoyable for me. So
Thanks.
I
Thank you.
really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks all.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Take care.